Every day, countless people read the right books, attend the right seminars, and speak about their dreams with passion. They know exactly what they want. Yet, only a small fraction of them ever bring those dreams to life. Why? Because between knowing and doing lies a gap, and it's in that very gap where most dreams quietly disappear. Knowledge without action is wasted potential, a truth so clear yet so often ignored. Everywhere you look, people are filled with ideas, strategies, and dreams. They know what could be done, what should be done, and even what must be done, but knowing alone has never changed a single life. Knowledge is like an unopened gift. It holds value only when used. You can read the finest books, attend the best seminars, and gather every piece of wisdom available. But if you never act, it all turns into silent, unused potential. Imagine someone who studies the art of sailing. They know every rope, every knot, every rule of the sea. They can describe the stars, the winds, the currents. But unless they actually step onto a boat and set sail, their knowledge remains trapped in theory. The ocean doesn't reward the one who knows. It rewards the one who dares to act. Life works the same way. You may know the principles of success, the habits of discipline, the rules of wealth, and the science of health, and without execution nothing changes. Knowledge without action becomes a burden because it fools the mind into believing progress has been made when in reality nothing has moved forward. The tragedy is that many confuse learning with achievement. They feel accomplished after reading a book or listening to a speech because it sparks excitement, and excitement feels like progress. But the truth is, excitement fades, and only action creates results. Reading about running will not strengthen your legs. Studying the habits of great leaders will not make you one. Memorizing principles of wealth will not build your bank account. You can sit in the classroom of life forever, but until you step outside and apply what you know, the lessons remain nothing more than words. The reason this principle is so critical is because potential is perishable. Knowledge grows stale when it isn't applied. Ideas lose their energy when they remain locked in the mind. Each time you ignore the urge to act, you train yourself to hesitate. Each time you postpone, you strengthen the habit of delay. Slowly, the fire of possibility dims, not because you lacked intelligence, but because you lacked movement. Wasted potential is not about what we don't know. It's about what we refuse to do with what we know. Think of the countless people who know how to improve their lives but never do. They know they should exercise, yet they stay on the couch. They know they should save, yet they spend recklessly. They know they should build a skill, yet they distract themselves with meaningless entertainment. Their life doesn't collapse from ignorance, but from inaction. The world is filled with intelligent people living unfulfilled lives, not because they were denied knowledge, but because they never applied it. The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is not built by what you know, but by what you do. Knowledge can light the path, but only action can walk it. The people who rise, the ones who achieve, are rarely the ones who know the most. They are the ones who dared to apply even a little of what they knew, while others were preparing endlessly, waiting for the perfect time. They acted, and by acting, they turned knowledge into experience, and experience into mastery. Knowledge without action is like a map never used. It may show you the way, but it will never take you there. Life does not reward the collector of maps. It rewards the traveler who walks the road. And so, the question is never how much you know, but how much you are willing to do with what you know. For in the end, the greatest tragedy is not ignorance. The greatest tragedy is wasted potential, the dreams that could have been lived, the goals that could have been reached but never were, simply because knowledge was left to die without action. The real test of success is execution, not intention. Many people live under the illusion that wanting something badly enough is the same as working for it. They fill their days with plans, visions, and dreams, but very little movement. They mistake thought for progress. They mistake preparation for execution. Intention, while important, is only the spark. Execution is the fire. Without it, even the brightest dream remains cold. Consider how often we hear people speak about what they are going to do. One day, I'll start that business. Soon, I'll write that book. Tomorrow, I'll change my habits. Their words are filled with confidence, but their actions rarely match their promises. They carry their dreams around like treasures locked in a box, never realizing that a locked treasure is of no value. The world does not reward what you intend to do. It only responds to what you actually do. Execution is the bridge between imagination and reality. You may have the sharpest mind, the clearest vision, and the strongest desire, but if you fail to cross that bridge, your ideas will remain trapped in your mind. The true measure of a person is not how much they know, but how much they apply. Not how much they hope, but how much they build. Success does not ask what you planned, it asks what you created. Every great achievement in history exists because someone decided to act. The towering buildings, the powerful inventions, the timeless books, and the remarkable movements of change, none of these were born from intention alone. They began with an idea, yes, but they came to life only when someone executed. Imagine if those individuals had stopped at intention. Imagine if they had waited until everything was perfect before they moved. The world would have been left without their contributions. This is why execution matters more than intention. The world does not see what lies inside your thoughts. It only sees the results of your labor. A person with half the knowledge, but double the courage to act, will always surpass the one who knows more, but never moves. Action beats hesitation. Execution outshines endless planning. But execution is not glamorous. It requires showing up every day, often in silence, without applause. It means doing the work when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one even cares. Intention feels good. It excites you. It fuels your imagination. Execution feels hard. It demands effort, sacrifice, and persistence. That is why most people stay in the comfort of intention, while only a few step into the challenge of execution. And those few are the ones the world remembers. If you truly want success, shift your focus from what you intend to do to what you are actually doing. Keep your promises to yourself. Let your results speak louder than your words. Each day, ask not what you planned, but what you executed. For in the end, it is not the dreamers who change the world, it is the doers. Fear, procrastination, and doubt widen the gap between knowing and doing. These three forces work silently, almost invisibly, yet they are responsible for stealing more dreams than any outside circumstance ever could. A person may know exactly what needs to be done, but the moment fear whispers in their ear, their steps freeze. Fear convinces them that taking action will expose them to failure, rejection, or embarrassment. It paints vivid pictures of what could go wrong while completely hiding what could go right. As a result, the individual remains where they are, safe, comfortable, and unfulfilled. Fear does not need to destroy a person's dream directly. It simply needs to delay their action long enough until the dream fades away on its own. Then there is procrastination, the quiet thief of time. Unlike fear, procrastination often disguises itself as rational thought. A person says to themselves, "I'll start tomorrow when I have more energy. I'll begin next week when the timing is better. I'll take action when everything is perfectly lined up." They believe they are being smart, strategic, and cautious, but what they are truly doing is pushing their dream into a future that may never arrive. Tomorrow turns into next week into next year, and eventually the dream is buried under layers of someday. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment, but over time it builds a wall between knowing and doing so high that most people never climb over it. And then comes doubt, the inner voice that questions everything. Doubt tells a person that they are not ready, not talented enough, not deserving of the success they imagine. Even when opportunities present themselves, doubt makes them second-guess, hesitate, and retreat. It convinces them that others are smarter, stronger, or luckier. Doubt is perhaps the most dangerous of the three because it attacks the very core of belief, and without belief, even knowledge and opportunity are wasted. When these three forces work together, the result is devastating. A person may have the roadmap, the tools, and the ability to move forward, but fear paralyzes them. Procrastination delays them, and doubt convinces them that even if they acted, it would not matter. This trio widens the gap between knowing and doing until it feels impossible to cross. And tragically, many people live their entire lives trapped on the side of knowing, never experiencing what could have been had they acted. The truth is, these forces never completely disappear. Even the most successful people feel fear, are tempted by procrastination, and hear the whispers of doubt. The difference is that they act anyway. They refuse to allow fear to dictate their choices. They replace procrastination with discipline, creating small daily habits that build momentum. They quiet doubt by remembering that nobody ever begins perfectly ready, and that confidence is earned only through action. The lesson is clear. Knowing is never enough. The moment fear, procrastination, or doubt take control, knowledge becomes useless. Dreams dissolve not because they are impossible, but because they are smothered by hesitation. The only way to close the gap is through movement, through taking a step forward even when fear is loud, even when procrastination feels comforting, and even when doubt whispers lies. Every step into action weakens their power, and the one who dares to move despite these forces eventually discovers that the gap between knowing and doing was never as wide as it once seemed. Clarity comes through action, not endless planning. This is one of the most misunderstood truths in personal growth and achievement. Many people believe they must first have every detail mapped out before they can begin. They spend weeks, months, even years thinking, analyzing, preparing, and waiting for the perfect plan. They convince themselves that one more book, one more strategy, or one more piece of advice will finally give them the certainty they need. But the truth is, certainty never arrives in advance. The path only reveals itself when your feet are on it. A person might dream of starting a business, but instead of taking the first step, they spend years sketching out ideas, researching competitors, or waiting for the right economic conditions. Another person dreams of becoming a writer, yet they wait for the perfect story, the perfect mood, or the perfect burst of inspiration. In both cases, nothing is created, nothing is built, and nothing moves forward. The reason is simple. Clarity does not come from thinking about doing, it comes from doing. Action has a way of cutting through confusion. When you move, even imperfectly, you begin to see what works and what doesn't. A business idea that only existed on paper suddenly faces the real world, and reality gives you feedback far more valuable than endless theory. The first paragraph written, no matter how rough, teaches you more about writing than years of daydreaming about becoming an author. Movement sharpens vision. Each step makes the road ahead more visible. The danger of waiting for perfect clarity is that the waiting itself becomes a trap. You end up mistaking preparation for progress. You feel productive reading another book, watching another video, or rewriting another plan, but deep down, nothing changes. Time passes. Energy drains. The dream stays locked inside the mind. Eventually, the weight of inaction feels heavier than the fear of failure. And the saddest part? Many never realize that what they were waiting for would have appeared the moment they began. Think about how a foggy morning works. If you stand still, the fog surrounds you, and you cannot see more than a few feet ahead. But if you begin walking, the path unfolds with each step. The fog doesn't vanish instantly, but your perspective changes as you move forward. That is how life works. You may not see the full picture now, but movement reveals it piece by piece. Standing still only keeps you blind. History is filled with people who started without perfect clarity, yet created extraordinary results because they had the courage to act. They didn't know every answer. They didn't have every guarantee. But they trusted that clarity would come through movement, and it did. Meanwhile, countless others with equal knowledge and even greater resources waited, hesitated, and faded into obscurity. The difference was not intelligence or talent, it was action. If you want clarity in your own life, stop searching for it in theory. Stop waiting for the perfect plan. Begin with what you have, where you are, and move forward, however small the step may be. The first attempt may not be perfect, but it will teach you more than hesitation ever will. As you act, the road clears. As you move, opportunities appear. As you do, you learn. And in the end, clarity always belongs to those who dare to take the first step. Discipline transforms knowledge into results. It is the unseen bridge between what we understand and what we actually accomplish. Many people know exactly what needs to be done to improve their lives. They know the principles of saving money, the basics of good health, the importance of consistency in work, and the habits that lead to growth. Yet knowledge, no matter how accurate or profound, remains useless if it is not applied. Discipline is what turns the invisible into the visible, the idea into the achievement, and the dream into reality. Without it, everything else remains only potential, like an untapped resource buried beneath the ground. Discipline is rarely glamorous. It does not shine in the moment. It often feels heavy, repetitive, and thankless. It demands that we act, not when we feel inspired, but when we feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. Anyone can act on the days when energy is high and motivation is overflowing, but discipline is the ability to act on the days when those feelings are nowhere to be found. It is doing the workout when the body resists, writing the page when the mind is blank, and sticking to the budget when temptations surround us. These small victories, invisible to most, compound quietly until they form something extraordinary. It is easy to mistake knowledge for progress. A person may spend hours reading about success, watching videos, and talking about their plans. They may even feel accomplished for having learned so much, but progress is not measured by what we know. It is measured by what we consistently do. Discipline is the instrument that ensures that what we know becomes what we practice. It removes the illusion of progress and replaces it with the reality of action. The truth is, discipline does not restrict freedom, it creates it. The disciplined writer has the freedom of a finished manuscript. The disciplined athlete has the freedom of health and strength. The disciplined worker has the freedom that comes from financial security and opportunity. On the other hand, the undisciplined person, though they may feel free in the moment, slowly becomes a prisoner to regret, limitation, and lost chances. They pay the price later for what discipline would have required earlier. Discipline is also impartial. It does not care about talent, background, or intelligence. A person of average skill who applies steady discipline will outgrow a genius who never acts. History is filled with stories of people who were not the most gifted, not the most brilliant, but who rose to greatness because they did not break the chain of daily effort. Every stroke of the brush, every page written, every hour of practice built momentum that eventually separated them from those who relied only on talent and knowledge. What discipline really demands is honesty. It forces us to confront ourselves with a simple question: if we already know what to do, why are we not doing it? The answer is often uncomfortable. Excuses, fear, and procrastination dissolve under the weight of disciplined action. Each step forward removes the need for justification because progress speaks for itself. In the end, the world does not reward those who know the most, but those who act the most with what they know. Knowledge prepares the way, but discipline clears it. Knowledge gives the plan, but discipline builds the road. Discipline is not a temporary effort. It is a lifelong commitment to bridge the gap between potential and reality. It is the daily decision to honor what you know by living it out until the results cannot be denied. Small, consistent steps close the gap faster than big, delayed leaps. This is one of the most overlooked truths about success. Too often, people believe they must wait for the perfect opportunity to take a massive step forward, as if greatness can only come from sudden, dramatic action. They wait until they have more time, more money, more confidence, or more clarity. But waiting is the very thing that keeps them stuck. While they wait for the right moment, the person who simply takes one step at a time is already far ahead. Success is not built in giant leaps, but in the steady rhythm of daily effort. When we look closely at those who achieve great things, we see a pattern. Small steps, repeated over and over, that compound into extraordinary results. A writer who commits to a single page a day will have written hundreds of pages by the end of the year. An investor who saves a little every week will build wealth that multiplies with time. A person who trains for 15 minutes each morning will be stronger, healthier, and more disciplined in a matter of months. None of these actions are dramatic in isolation, but their power lies in their consistency. The mind often deceives us into believing that progress only counts when it is massive. We think if we cannot make a big leap, then a small step is meaningless. But the opposite is true. The small step is the only thing that truly matters, because it is the only thing within our control right now. A leap may never come, the perfect conditions may never arrive, but a step can always be taken, here and now. Consider the story of anyone who has mastered their craft. Musicians practice scales, athletes run drills, scientists record experiments, business leaders make small daily decisions. Each action on its own seems trivial, almost unworthy of notice. But repeated over years, those small actions create mastery. That is why success is never about one grand event. It is about the invisible accumulation of ordinary actions done with discipline. Small, consistent steps also protect us from the weight of procrastination. When a dream feels too big, the mind becomes overwhelmed and fear takes hold. But if you break it down into the smallest possible step, the dream suddenly feels manageable. Writing one page does not feel impossible. Saving $5 does not feel overwhelming. Walking for 10 minutes is not intimidating. By lowering the barrier to action, you begin, and beginning is everything. Once you are in motion, momentum builds, and momentum is far more powerful than inspiration. Another important truth is this: consistency creates identity. Each small step is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. When you show up every day, even in a small way, you reinforce the belief that you are disciplined, capable, and worthy of success. Over time, these small actions do more than change your results. They change the way you see yourself. And when your identity shifts, your future shifts with it. So remember, waiting for a big leap is a trap. Those leaps are rare, and they are built upon the foundation of smaller steps that no one sees. Your dream does not disappear because it is too far away. It disappears because you never started walking toward it. The only way to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be is to take small, consistent steps every day, no matter how unremarkable they seem. In the end, it is those small steps that carry you the furthest. Dreams fade when ideas stay in the mind instead of the hands. Every dream begins as a thought, a spark of imagination, something that whispers to you in the quiet moments of life. But imagination alone is fragile. Left untouched, it begins to lose its strength, like smoke disappearing into the air. Too many people mistake thinking about their dreams for progress toward them. They imagine success so vividly that it feels real, but without action it remains only an illusion. The truth is, an idea is only the first step. It is the blueprint, not the building. You can draw the most beautiful design for a house, but until you lay the first brick, it will remain a picture on paper. In the same way, a dream is nothing more than potential energy. It only becomes something you can touch and experience when it moves from thought into effort. Many people carry extraordinary dreams within them. They imagine businesses, art, books, inventions, or opportunities that could change their lives and even the world. But instead of moving forward, they overthink, overplan, or wait for the perfect moment. They replay the dream in their head again and again until it becomes a comforting fantasy rather than a mission. Slowly, that once bright vision begins to dull. Days pass, weeks pass, and the fire that once burned begins to cool. What could have been is lost in the silence of inaction. The tragedy is not that people dream too small, but that they dream and never act. The mind convinces them that tomorrow will be better, that more preparation is needed, that fear must leave before courage can arrive. But tomorrow rarely comes. Preparation is endless, and fear never fully disappears. The only way forward is to take the idea out of the mind and into the hands, to put motion where there was once only thought. Even the smallest step can prevent a dream from dying. Writing one page, making one call, saving $1, practicing 1 hour. These actions are the lifeblood of progress. They may feel small, even insignificant, but they are the difference between a dreamer and a doer. The dreamer lives in possibility. The doer lives in reality. And reality rewards action. Think of every invention, every piece of art, every business, every success story. They all began as ideas. At one point, they existed only in someone's imagination. The difference between those that changed the world and those that vanished was simple. Someone acted. Someone turned thought into work, vision into sweat, intention into persistence. A dream that lives only in the mind will always feel perfect, untouchable, free from failure. But once you bring it into reality, it becomes vulnerable. It can stumble, it can face obstacles, it can demand more from you than you expected. Yet it is only through that struggle that the dream grows strong enough to survive. Perfection in the mind is an illusion. Progress in the world is the truth. So when an idea comes to you, hold it carefully, but do not lock it away. Write it down. Take a step toward it. Give it breath through action. Because dreams left in the mind eventually fade, but dreams placed in the hands can shape the world. The gap between imagination and execution decides the future of every dream. If you act, it lives. If you delay, it disappears. The choice is always yours. Success belongs to those who dare to act, not just to those who think. The world is full of people with brilliant ideas, people who dream vividly, who imagine lives of greatness, wealth, and impact. Their minds are rich with possibilities, but their hands remain still. They live in the realm of thought, where everything is safe and untested. Thinking carries no risk. Imagining requires no sacrifice. But action, real action, demands courage, discipline, and the willingness to face failure. And this is why only a few ever rise above the crowd. Ideas, no matter how powerful, remain invisible until they are put into motion. A person can know the perfect strategy, design the perfect plan, or visualize the perfect outcome, but unless they act, those visions dissolve like mist in the morning sun. History does not remember the ones who thought about writing books. It remembers the ones who wrote them. It does not celebrate the ones who planned inventions in their minds. It honors the ones who built them, tested them, and brought them into the world. Success has always been reserved for the few who chose to move forward when others only thought about it. Many people hold back because they want certainty. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect resources, or the perfect plan before they take the first step. But that moment of perfection never arrives. The person who waits to act until they feel completely ready will wait their entire life. Success does not ask for perfect timing, it demands movement, and once you move, clarity follows. The act of doing reveals what the act of thinking cannot. The door does not open until you push it. Action is the great separator. It divides the dreamers from the doers, the thinkers from the achievers. Two people may share the same knowledge, the same dream, and even the same opportunities. One will talk about it endlessly, waiting for conditions to align. The other will act, stumble, learn, and grow. Years later, one will look back with regret at what could have been, while the other will stand as proof of what happens when you dare to act. Even small, imperfect steps carry more weight than endless thoughts. A writer who produces 1 page a day will complete a book in a year. A dreamer who spends that same year thinking about the perfect story will have nothing to show. The difference between them is not intelligence or talent. It is the courage to move despite uncertainty. Success belongs not to the one who waits for the perfect stroke of inspiration, but to the one who picks up the pen and writes anyway. Fear is often the strongest barrier to action. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of wasting time. But failure is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Every step, even the ones that go wrong, brings you closer to mastery. The person who never acts avoids failure, but they also avoid success. They remain safe, but also stagnant. Meanwhile, the one who dares to act embraces both risk and reward. That willingness to face uncertainty is what opens the door to achievement. In the end, success has never belonged to those who only think, plan, or dream. It belongs to those who, in spite of fear, in spite of doubt, take bold steps toward their vision. The world rewards movement. Progress requires it. Dreams demand it. And every moment you act, you separate yourself from the countless others who remain trapped in thought. To dare to act is to claim your place among the few who turn vision into reality.